Hello everyone, how do you do? I'm Adrian Montano, trainer and excellence coach at Mindgrasp, and welcome to another one of our live sessions. Somebody actually asked me, do you wear something else but polo shirts? Because it seems like you really have a thing for polo shirts in your live videos. And the answer is yes. Yes, I do. Come do one of my live trainings, and you'll also see me wear button down shirts and suits and whatnot. But joke aside, today we actually are going to continue our live series on values and human evolution. So, the evolution of human consciousness through values levels. And I will begin by doing a very quick roundup of what we've been talking about over the past two sessions. We said that values are simply what is important to us. And so everybody has values. Every single person has values because they simply determine what are their priorities in different areas of life and in life overall. They determine how they spend their time, they determine where their energy and where their attention goes, and what they will be focusing on. Also, there are no good or bad values. Consequently, it only means that there are different values. Everybody has a different model of the world, so they also have different values. And depending on their environment, their neurology, and also the words they use to define values, we can begin looking at different values levels. And we've also talked about how values are an adaptive response to the environment. People have formed their values as an adaptation to their environment. So we can talk about values that are well suited, geared towards living, and not only living but also thriving in a particular environment, and values that are less well suited for thriving in a particular environment, in a particular medium. Also, we've discussed about how people's evolution is influenced by values, and their individual evolution through values levels reflects the evolutionary stages of mankind through different levels of complexity in human societies. And we've also begun exploring what exactly these levels are. So before we go ahead talking further today, I'd like to add another distinction, namely, people are not their values levels. So you can't say that a person is values level 2 or is values level 3 and so on. We can say that people's values are mainly sit in one specific area, so they cluster around such a theme. But what defines each of us as a human being is far more ample, far more vast than just our values level and where we sit in our evolution through values levels. And in fact, you will very rarely see people whose values purely sit within the theme of a single values level. Most often, people will mainly be in one, so their values will be mainly in one values level, and also different areas of lives might be at different evolutionary stages. So that's actually one potential source of conflicts in people's lives. We've also said that the evolution through values levels is possible, but is not guaranteed. This is one of the most important findings of Clare Graves, who actually defined these evolutionary stages for the complexity of human consciousness. And let's not forget, this is not where you are in your evolution through values levels, has nothing to do with how intelligent you are, so what your IQ is, or what your emotional coefficient is. It has nothing to do with how worldly or clever or smart you are. It's simply a function of how well geared you are to deal with the complexities of your environment. And we've started discussing what defines some of the first values levels. So value level 1 being bare human life. just slightly above purely animalic existence. Values level 2 being focused on family, tribes, kinship, and blood relations. A world in which a perspective in which the exterior world, everything that is outside of the family or the tribe, is magical and potentially dangerous. And it's something that you see, for instance, in little kids as they're growing up, that they talk with their toys and their toys answer back at them. Or even as you grow up, some people name their cars or talk to their cars or their computers. I know that for one, and my friends can definitely vouch for this. I have a very strong personal relationship with my phone, and it's almost like a living, breathing being that I connect with. But yeah, joke aside, we then talked about value level 3, how when people feel suffocated by the family environment, they no longer want to submit to the chieftain of the tribe or the kinship. They want to be that person. They want to prove their individuality. And this is the point in the evolution of throughout somebody's life when they start learning how to say no to their parents, to their family. They want to break free and they want to prove their individuality. Teenagers are very often in this area of value level 3, and some people, because they can't find the proper environment that allows them to manifest more complex behaviors and more complex values, don't really get to outgrow it. But that's a different story. We'll look into it a bit later. So value level 3 is solely focused on the immediate satisfaction of your pleasures, of your desires, without regard for consequences. So value level 3 is very much focused on the here and the now. How can I maximize my power, my dominion over others? And historically, it has to do with the rise of warrior kingdoms and colonization, domination, and warfare, organized warfare. So value level 3 then evolves into value level 4 when people become aware of their own mortality, when they mess it up so badly that they can't but become aware of their consequences. And value level 4 is, once again, as I mentioned yesterday, a point where the individual's attention turns towards the group, but this time the connection to the group is not mediated by blood connections as with value level 2, but rather by impersonal, rational, so-called objective rules, regulations, and laws that are written down, codified in a book that gets almost holy status. So value level 4 is the point where the monotheistic, the grand religions and philosophies are born. Value level 4 is also the point where state bureaucracy takes shape. I remember I studied classics, and our Roman history professor told us, well, the main difference between Roman and Greek and classical Greek civilization was that when the Greeks had a problem, they wrote a philosophical treatise. The Romans wrote a piece of law. And both are actually very value level 4 approaches to life. And in fact, the Roman states, the Republic and then the Roman Empire, is an exceptional example of value level 4 bureaucracy, from the highest to the lowest level of the state, because everything was very carefully codified. And value level 4 is really big on this, having codex, a book that tells you, or a piece of text that tells you exactly how to act, how to behave in every single given circumstance, how to interact with others, what is right and what is wrong. So a person who is doing values level 4 mainly in their life will turn to the text in a moment of self-doubt, because that is where they find, or they think they will find, the answers to whatever is giving them a hard time, whatever is challenging them in their lives. So value level 4 tends to be, as I was saying yesterday, really dogmatic, and I will insist a little more in the description of values level 4 as in order to better understand what exactly facilitates the transition and the evolution towards values level 5. And mind you, when I say transition or evolution, I don't mean that a certain values level is better than another, because as I've said at the beginning, it's only a question of how well geared they are to the complexities of a given environment. So, values level 4 is very dogmatic and is sacrificial, focuses on, well, giving away your immediate pleasure and the satisfaction of your needs for the sake of the institution, the organization, or the greater all encompassing world plan, which the book that you're subscribing towards describes. Giving giving up your immediate satisfaction for the sake of an ulterior reward, either when the great glory of this plan is ultimately realized on Earth, as in utopian systems of thought, or in the other world, as we're talking with respect to religions. So you give away all your earthly passions for the sake of a heavenly reward. Now, what is less obvious about value level 4 is that although there are quite a lot of value level 4 systems that espouse, that tout compassion and care and love for the other, they're actually really dogmatic, because if you step 1 inch outside of value level 4, then you get struck down. And it's really, really judgmental. So we've gotten some really good aspects out of value level 4, because in its better manifestations, it allows for order, it allows for predictability. After all, values level 4 wants to create a world order that is stable and that is everlasting. As Adriana James brilliantly put it, an never-changing, everlasting everything. So that's the idea of behind values level 4. At the same time, it can go overboard. For instance, in Switzerland, which is a society very dominated by values level 4 thinking, if you even, it's not even a question of whether you park in the right space or not, but if you don't park precisely, evenly within the allotted parking space, you get a ticket. And I mean, that might work for you, that might not work for you, depends on, well, what your values and priorities are. It's just, as we'd say in the field, it is what it is. And I think it's really important to understand what's the structure behind certain types of behaviors, behind certain types of human attitudes, so we know both where we are and where we want to get to next. And another aspect about values level 4, because it's so dogmatic and because it so strictly adheres to preset rules about how things should be, rather than looking at how things are in reality. In fact, values level 4 always tries to fit in reality to its preset formulae. It doesn't really anticipate change. It's actually very mistrusting of change. And it's also rife for corruption. So values level 4 organizations, from the state to, well, for instance, the church, and the Catholic Church in particular, is an ultimate example of values level 4 organization as an environment, because the Catholic Church absorbs the legalistic spirit of the Roman Empire and carried it forward throughout the Middle Ages and up until nowadays. So in every such organization, because everything is so preset, everything is so orderly, it doesn't necessarily mean that all the individuals in the organization are already at values level 4 in their thinking and their behavior. Some might be below, In fact, some might not have evolved beyond values level 2 because values level 4 really looks down on the hot-headed sociopath of values level 3 and wouldn't allow people from values level 2 to grow beyond it. Also, there might be values level 3 people within such an organization, but carefully hiding their true tendencies. And there might even be values level 5 people who've already evolved beyond the dogmatic structure of the organization into more complex thinking and behaviors, but they're using the structure of the organization to forward their own personal individual interests. And in fact, this is what happened when values level 5 first appeared on the world stage. And as I was saying, values level 4 was born around the 7th to the 5th century BCE, with Greek philosophy, with the writing and the coherent mapping of the Hebrew structures in Babylon, and at the same time in China with the rise of the thinking of Lao Tzu and Confucius. So values level 5 was born once with the Renaissance in Italy and the lowlands, and it was a fresh type of thinking that was this time not focused so much on how things should be in pure theory, but rather looked at the world as it is and tried to investigate its true causes and its true functionality. So values level 5 is the basis of the rationalistic revolution that begins in the Renaissance and then blooms with the Enlightenment and throughout the 19th century all the way to our days. Values level 5 wants to understand exactly how the world works as it is in order to use it to craft the good life. So a life that is good here and now rather than in a hypothetical afterlife or at the advent of that utopian ultimate world order that values level 4 touts. So values level 5 is very much focused on aesthetic pleasures, on triumph, on success, on making money and showing it off, which at least the Italian Renaissance was very, very much about. If we think about, for instance, Pope Alexander or Pope Leo X, the Medici families, the Borgias, and so on. And the whole art of this period, which instead of looking at idealized notions of the workings of the heaven and religion, started looking at humankind as it was. In fact, Pico della Mirandola, one of the philosophers of the Renaissance, cemented what I think is the core of value level 5 and how it behaves and how it understands the world, the idea that there is no such thing as a finite human nature. In fact, the human nature is our very capacity to change our nature depending on our interests and where we want to go. Neurolinguistic programming, in fact, was born within a values level 5 environment, which is mainly driven by the idea of efficiency, doing things faster, better, always performing more, always outshining your competition. And it's no accident that the Renaissance thrived both from an artistic and thinking point of view in the environments in Italy and the lowlands, so what are nowadays Belgium and the Netherlands, because these were very rich mercantile environments, which developed a whole new class structure beyond the medieval tripartite structure of noblemen who fought, of the clergy who prayed, and peasants who worked at the fields. In fact, the merchants were people who made money out of their own ingenuity. So by using the system as it was at the time, and we're able to improve their condition. So value level 5 is very self-motivated and very driven by the idea of improving one's life by the use of one's rationality, by the use of one's mind. So values level 5 people will be very interested to learn more about the world and about themselves using their rational faculties. They will always be interested to be better. Whenever they enter a room, values level 5 people ask themselves, okay, how many people here am I are my inferiors? So I'm better than how many people here? And how can I prove in the outside that I am better than all of these people? And I will keep insisting on the dynamics between values level 4 and 5 simply because they are key to understanding where the world is now and why it is in this place. Also, what do we need to do concretely in order to move forward, both with respect to our individual evolution and with respect to our evolution as society. So, as I was saying, values level 5 thinking bloomed during the Renaissance. And if values level 3 is the first place where individual consciousness appears, and values level 4 is the understanding of consequences, in values level 5, what you get are people who are tired of being part of a very rigid order and sacrificing their current good for an ulterior reward, but rather people who want to live well here and now, and who understand that any order is ultimately man-made. Because if you were to ask people doing values level 4, okay, what are the basis for all the customs and all the rules and all the principles that you uphold so dearly in order to explain reality, or sometimes explain it away, they will rather run to their books, to their either their holy book or their revered philosophical treatise, or the rule book for their company or the organization they're part of. Whereas people in values level 5 will smile and understand that all such order started with a human perspective. And in fact, in modern days, values level 5 people are the ones who wake up all of a sudden within a company and realize that they can do what they're doing for somebody else, but this time for themselves. They can create their own system, their own company, and thrive consequently. Now, there is a dark side to values level 5 as well, and in fact, although it was born in the Renaissance, it really came to bloom once the Industrial Revolution took place. So, because the Industrial Revolution was the ultimate period in human history, well, the first period, but a wonderful time for transforming scientific, rationalistic understanding of the world into concrete economic gain. And the two are pretty much the core engine of values level 5 thinking and doing. And so people made immense fortunes, much more than the traditional aristocracy, the landed gentry could have dreamed of, out of transforming ideas into systems that were driven by scientific progress and that allowed them to make products ever faster, ever cheaper, with increasing quality. At the same time, values level 5 is also very, on its darker side, a very exploitative system. It exploits human beings who work for the entrepreneurs, the ones who create such systems of employment and who create the companies, and it exploits the consumers. Values level 5 thinking is, okay, you buy my product, doesn't really matter if it's really good for you or not, you believe this, that's your problem. Now you deal with the consequences. And here you have, for instance, the example of multinational corporations nowadays. And finally, values level 5 is very, and has been very exploitative to Earth, nature. So it's really, really sank its teeth into natural resources down to the point of destroying them, poisoning the environment, killing away large portions of the flora and fauna on Earth, and making the planet, well, bringing it to the brink of uninhabitability. So that's the dark side of values level 5. Now, values level 4, when it looks at all of these, of course, it rebels. Because, and this is something we'll talk about more in our future talks, no single values level can comprehend the values levels that succeeded. So the values levels that are more complex than it. So values level 2 looks at values level 3 and thinks it's 1. Values level 3 looks at values level 4 and thinks it's 2. Values level 4 looks at 5 and thinks it's 3. That's why, and the dynamics between 4 and 5 is very much contentious and has been for the past 200, 300 years, with waves upon waves of revolutions, of people claiming their rights to equal pay, to more leisurely time, to rights that are guaranteed by the state. So values, people organizing in according to values level 4 thinking and principles. As I was saying yesterday, the doctrine of human rights is very much a values level 4 concept, and demanding from the state, which is also a values level 4 organization, to keep in check the ambition of values level 5 individuals and companies that are exploiting them, that are exploiting the environment. But the thing is that values level 5 is very crafty. That's one of its core characteristics. Values level 5 is the first place where win-win thinking is born, because at the same time that it tends to be exploitative, it understands that if you kill off all the people, if you destroy the whole planet, you won't have a market where you can share your products anymore. So it's always sort of worked its way around state regulations, around any given system, in order to accommodate whatever has been thrown at it, whatever challenge has come about, and keep people being happy. That's why, for instance, in the period after World War II, companies in the West accepted paying very significant income taxes just so that the wider populace, and corporate taxes as well, just so that the wider populace would not rebel, overthrow the state, and maybe bring about communism, which would have completely destroyed their hold on society and their opportunity to keep doing business. That's why, and in fact, that has brought all around prosperity in society. And the more people were enfranchised economically, the more values level 5 entrepreneurs and companies had a market to whom they could sell their products. So values level 5 understands the win-win dynamics, and it understands that words are labels, that they can re-signify creatively. So the world of marketing and publicity, PR, is very much a values level 5 environment, at least from the point of view of thinking. I'm not saying that all individuals working in the field necessarily are there, but the thinking is definitely values level 5. And if you want to really get a glimpse of the workings of values level 5, I would definitely recommend Mad Men. So watching that show, it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's like an introductory manual to the highly chameleonic values level 5. A values level 5 person will always be very eager to sell, and for them everything has a price. So they they interact with people from values level 2, 3, 4, and they put on the cloak of those values levels, although not fully coherently, ingenuously, in order to show themselves, in order to sell more. So the question they ask themselves is, whom do you want me to pretend that I am so that you buy from me, but that you're still satisfied with what you've bought, so you'll keep buying from me. Because if values level 3 people, and by the way, the values level 3 people can make great salesmen just because they have so much energy. They're absolutely relentless, and they're absolutely ruthless. So as a manager, you might want somebody who is doing values level 3 to be a salesperson. At the same time, values level 3 doesn't get repeat business because they don't care about the consequences of their sales. They don't care if the people they sell to are satisfied, whereas values level 5 cares about the long-standing consequences, because remember, values level 5 has already been through 4, so they understand the consequences of their actions. Now, what happens nowadays is that because of what values level 5 has been doing over these past few hundreds of years since the Industrial Revolution, our planet is in big trouble. And at the same time, states and state organizations, even as complex and as large as the European Union or as the United Nations, are always one step behind the chameleonic values level 5 corporations. Now, the question is, what can we do as societies in order to catch up and in order to successfully stand up to this process so that we keep having a home, so that we keep thriving together as a whole humanity, and that we keep going forward and create an environment in which all people can prosper, in which all people have the opportunity to grow and develop. And that's a question that we'll explore over the next few videos, because the traditional answer has been, okay, put in more regulations on companies, and put in more rules that they need to comply with, and more checks. And of course that works in a certain extent, and it also runs the risk of halting progress. So what if there were a way to keep business, so entrepreneurial initiative and respect for human life and human needs, aspirations, and the human spirit, as well as nature that supports us all, to keep all of these satisfied? And this is one question that value level 5 cannot answer, but as we'll see in the next few days, the ulterior values levels offer potential and sometimes actually concrete solutions. So thank you very much for listening today. I know it's been quite a whirlwind, but we've covered quite a lot of ground. As you can see, it's a very complex field. And as I've said, starting from the very beginning of this series of talks, we're only scratching the surface, because these are really, really vast subjects. And in fact, in our Master Practitioner NLP course, we spend 3 whole days talking about values levels and how you work with values, how you recognize values, and how to boost your evolution through values levels, as well as your clients. So if you work with them in coaching one-on-one, or if you work with them collectively, let's say in your organization. So thank you so much for listening. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, where we continue looking at these questions and the evolution through values levels. And we start exploring values levels 6 and beyond. Have a good evening. I wish you all the best. I'm yours truly, yours faithful, Adrian Montano, trainer and excellence coach at Mindgrasp. Bye.